Alright guys, talk about the Formula 1 news. The cars have officially hit the track for the first test of the season in Barcelona, or what they are officially calling the shakedown. That is because there was lots of controversy emerging today on the state and the level of the security restrictions around the circuit, preventing anyone getting a look at what these cars are up to. We do have some timings, we do have some lap counts today, we also have plenty of looks at the cars and some interesting updates the teams have shared, but there are limits on that as well. Lots of talking points and takeaways from day one. Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you are new as always. Let's dive right into it. We're going to begin here with a car that isn't there today. That's Aston Martin. The question is, will they get there at all? Currently, we don't think they're in Barcelona. Williams aren't there at all. We'll discuss towards the end of the video some updates from them. But Aston Martin, they have had some delays. This seems to be because, firstly, Newey didn't join right at the start of 2025. I think he joined at like the start of March. So they kind of wanted to wait for Newey to arrive before they made decisions. Then they figured out last summer their simulator was not really correlating. They had to make some adjustments there. Then Newey has really pushed back all the dates to make finalised decisions to make sure the concept is as improvable as possible and has the best possible base concept that they can work on and develop over this season and the seasons to come as well. So this isn't quite the same negative story as it is for Williams, but it's still exactly not optimal. Apparently they're going to make some announcement as to what they're going to do, but there were reports that they're double-digit kilos overweight. They have passed the crash test, but in terms of getting the final assembly going, that's not ideal. They failed several tests due to very aggressive designs, which is not necessarily a bad thing, really. You want to push the envelope. The car being over 10 kilograms overweight for the first few races until they bring a lighter package at some point. Apparently, though, it's a race against time for them to get to the track. So this is the key question. Will they even make it for the Barcelona test? They're not there now. They're not going to be there, we don't think, tomorrow either. There was a latest update that said actually they might be there on Thursday. So, of course, you can run 3 days. So, ideally, it's Wednesday, Thursday, Friday for them. But they might not get there in time for Wednesday. So, it could be just Thursday, Friday for Aston Martin. There was, however, another report that said, no, it's not over 10 kg overweight. It's actually less than that. So, look, maybe they're... And to be fair, if they're under 10 kg over, that's not the end of the world by any means. There was a rumour a little while ago that it was 15 kilos. So, that's the Aston Martin piece. It's obviously not an ideal start to the season for them, but it's not as bad as Williams as it stands. There's also a fair bit of talk about their engine, the power unit, the Honda power unit. Talk about how Honda have made it incredibly compact so that Newey can design aerodynamically the way that he wants to. They did confirm that they're not yet using a solid-state battery in its entirety. There have been talk that Honda, in terms of solid-state battery development, are pretty advanced, but that technology is not quite ready yet for F1, but Honda do say that they've got a brand new battery. They're potentially pushing the envelope on that. And the head of Honda F1 says, I mean, this is pretty optimistic, you can expect great things from Honda this year. Keep your expectations high. So, look, let's see, right? I don't want to jump the gun, but of course there has been some concern about Honda given what happened in the middle of the 2010s, whether Fernando Alonso will find himself in that predicament again, as he was with McLaren Honda before. But Honda are talking a good game. I think nobody really doubts the electrical component for Honda. It's more about whether the ICE will be up to scratch. But yes, apparently they are looking to get ready for Wednesday, so they can run Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. They might miss it, but they should be there, unlike Williams. Another car that should be there, well, is this. And this car, even if you don't recognise it, is the McLaren. This is their shakedown livery. Really, it is a test. I mean, come on, they call it a shakedown, but we'll discuss why in a second. It is a test. Again, I think this is just the livery, really. Like, there's just nothing of intrigue on these cars that are really worth looking at. So, yeah, we'll have to see what happens when this car actually hits the track. But they've gone for this, yeah, they're not going papaya quite yet. It's kind of funny with McLaren because there's not been much talk about them. They're the reigning champions. They're the reigning double champions. Well, back-to-back constructors and also the drivers from last year too. They've got the number one for Lando Norris on the car right here. But everyone's talking Mercedes, right? Everyone's talking Mercedes, Red Bull, as we'll see in a second, Ferrari. We've not seen much of McLaren so far. What interesting features will their car have? I'm sure it will have many. But yeah, this is just the early look really at the livery they're going to be running for the shakedown. But let's talk about what happened today in Barcelona, because wow, what a roller coaster for everyone involved. This is an official video put out by Formula One themselves. So this is a shakedown officially, but obviously it is a test. It is not being publicly broadcast, which is initially a surprise. What is even more of a surprise is that you might think, okay, it's for money, right? Bahrain, and this is probably true to some degree, Bahrain, they have the rights to the first and the second test on, I think, the 11th of February, and then 2 weeks after that, there's another midweek test in Bahrain. You might think, okay, well, that makes sense. They have the rights to it. They want that to be the test that they've paid the money for. So that's how it's going to be. And that is definitely part of what we are seeing here. But also, that first test in Bahrain, as we now understand, only the last hour of every day is going to be broadcast. The rest of the day is still behind closed doors. So why? And the other kind of frustrating thing about this is that the running today, all things considered, has appeared relatively smooth. This is not a Jerez 2014 situation where the cars can't even get out the garage. There's been, it's not been spectacular, but there's been plenty of running, brand new power units. You would expect lots of issues potentially. Generally speaking, it's been okay. So what are we hiding, right? I think that's the frustration maybe from the fans, is that I get it from the PR perspective. They don't want a repeat of 2014 when it was a shambles. But I think this has been a pretty positive story. Lots of lap running, lots of action. But instead, F1 seem absolutely hell-bent on stopping anyone watching any of it. Those that are there in person and those that are here from home as well. So we did get some footage. The cars were hitting the track for the first time. 7 cars on the track today. Of course, no Aston because they're not there. No Williams. No McLaren. And then the other team not running, I think, is Ferrari. But yeah, we got this beautiful shots here of the track in Barcelona. Now, there was a bit of a funny game happening because, according to what the race guys talked about, apparently the security teams that they've employed around the circuit here are of the opinion that if you are on public land, which this individual holding the camera is on, he is in a nice vantage point to have a great look into the track, but he's on public land. However, the circuit and Formula One apparently have informed that anyone standing anywhere where there is a view of the track is magically property of the track. So shortly after these videos were recorded, security men arrived to shuffle people along, and, well, off they went to find another spot where they could stand. So I do find it quite outrageous, like the extent of the security here. Look, I guess if you're going to make it a closed test, then you commit to it, I suppose, and you make it a properly closed test. But the level of security and even police action and intervention we'll see in a second is pretty outrageous. People are just trying to get a shot of the track, and you can see here up in these vantage points, security men turning up, police turning up. Even, Natchez, who's been doing some great work covering recent developments, he said that there was secret police, there was regular police, patrolling the area, trying to stop anyone taking pictures, recording videos. Look, I don't know if anyone's going to be really ballsy and put a drone up in the sky to try and get any footage here. But it's kind of remarkable the extent to which they are going to keep this all secret, and it doesn't really seem like it's necessary. The fans are particularly fascinated about what's happening on track right now. People want to watch, people want to know what's going on, but yet everything is being shut out to a great extent. Apart from the teams. The teams are still posting photos of their cars in all their glory, and maybe they'll post some lap times as well. But remarkably enough, apparently there's another rule where the teams are only allowed to post 6 pictures per day. That's the limit. They can't post any more than that. So again, there's restrictions on what they can do. This is one of them that Mercedes put out. We've had a pretty good look at their car, to be fair, in recent days. You can see very clearly here the new rain lights, by the way, as well, on the wing mirror. That is a talking point for the new season. But yeah, pretty stunning selection of cars. It's just a shame that we don't have any broadcast to talk about. And of course, we don't have official lap times, although we do have some for controversial reasons we'll get to in a second. This is the Racing Bull with that characteristically massive airbox at the back of the car. And this is the Red Bull. Now, there's lots to talk about this Red Bull today, mainly because of what you see when you look at the rear. Firstly, I guess we should discuss this side pod is very, very minimal indeed. And we did mention this when the car was revealed, and now we're seeing it on the track. No, I'm not going to quite call it a zero pod. It's not quite a W13, but it's not far away. You compare that to other cars, with much more traditional side pods like this on the Racing Bulls, you're not seeing much here on the Red Bull. It is very, very slim. They're definitely taking a different approach in this regard to other teams. It gives them a lot of room at the back of the floor, where we once again see an opening in the back of the floor. And this arguably is the biggest one that we have seen yet. So we didn't see this on the Red Bull renders, but on the real car, indeed, they have also figured out, as Mercedes and Ferrari have shown us, that you can do this at the back of the floor. And I don't think teams maybe expected it to be possible, but there's a loophole in the regulations, basically. It appears that way. I don't think this was intended by the regulators, but kind of who knows, that they've written it in such a way that it's possible to have a gap in the back of the floor and channel this air maybe more cleanly through to the diffuser. It's interesting, there's been talk about a slotted diffuser and all this. Again, it's quite different on the different cars. This is what Mercedes have at the top here. This was the first one that was talked about, really. The Ferrari is something similar, but quite notably different. And then again, we have a similar story today from the Red Bull. So these are the cars that we have seen this on so far. Given that it's Mercedes, Red Bull, Ferrari, probably this is a better solution than not having a hole at all, and all of these teams have figured that out. But exactly how they're doing this is actually quite different. You look at the three different cars, again, slightly different angles. They've all come up with a similar idea, but executed in a different way. The Red Bull does look great, by the way. To be fair, all of these cars look pretty fantastic. But will they race well? Will they be fast? Those are other questions. Now, this is the Audi hitting the track today. Again, not much expectations for this car, this team, but I mean, you can see how bulbous that side pod is compared to what Red Bull, I mean, like, the comparisons are night and day if we just have a quick side-by-side here between what Audi are doing and then where does the side pod disappear for the Red Bull. But the comparison was actually drawn to the F175, right? Is it similar in shape? Definitely are some similarities there between the Ferrari from 2022 with those, bathtub style side pods. Will Audi do something similar? Probably not, but we'll see. This is also interesting to me. This leading edge of the floorboard here, some are calling it the barge board still. Most teams, if we look at the Red Bull car, for example, this is the Racing Bull, they have a leading element here. The Red Bull has, the Red Bull doesn't have the same thing. That is very interesting because a lot of the renders appeared just like this, with the leading edge and then the three strapes, like the three elements going down from that. Now, what was notable about the reveal of the Mercedes is that they were the first team to not do that. They just had the three elements. And Red Bull have now shown us the same thing. And now Audi have shown us the same thing as well. So maybe that's the best solution. I don't know. There's going to be a lot of interesting development in this area. So the cars hit the track. There are some pictures, here's one of the Red Bull driving around. It's pretty much all they were able to get, really. This is another angle of, you can't really see the side pods here. You can see how slim the side of the car is. So, yeah, I'm not calling it a zero pod, but it's not a million miles away. Definitely a different concept. We did have some red flags, so this was Colapinto Alpine. Colapinto's Alpine came to a standstill. Obviously, Mercedes powered, something dodgy going on. Who knows? We also had Bortoletto's Audi, of course, Audi powered for the new season. He stopped on the track as well, so that was noted from afar. We also had Liam Lawson, so, the Ferrari powered cars, of course, Bortoletto, you think, Sauber Ferrari, but no, not anymore, right? Obviously, they're powering Cadillac, but it's the new Audi engine for Audi. Liam Lawson comes to a stop. Apparently, he was attempting a standing start and the anti-stall kicked in, so, they're getting used to the cars. It's difficult to have too many takeaways given the level of restrictions on what we've been able to see here. In addition to this, so people noticed, and this was, just to point it out, unintended, the live timings of the teams. Of course, that is available to the teams at the track itself. That this was not meant to be publicly accessible, but people figured out a way to get access to the live timings. And, well, we see the outcome of that. So Kimi Antonelli had at this point done 24 laps. He was the fastest man of anyone. By the time they cut this off, we effectively saw the following. So Isack Hadjar had done 34 laps. He was leading the way with a 118 high. Now, of course, the pole time last year was, down to the 111s or something. They're a long way off that. They're not going for anything like that. Really, laps completed is the key talking point. And there's been plenty of laps completed, right? It just makes me wonder why they made this whole thing behind closed doors as if they thought it was going to be some sort of a disaster, whereas so far, it doesn't seem like that is really the case at all. And then F1, they cut off the data feed and they were like, okay, yeah, that was an error. And look, it is understandable that they would do this, given that it is a private test. I mean, the fact that it was behind closed doors test, but yet everyone could just access the live data feed, it's like, okay, probably they're going to stop that, aren't they? So it was inevitable they were going to cut it off. I think it was accidental they made it public in the first place, but still some understandable frustration. So when that was all cut off, this is how things stood. Haas had done 67 laps, Mercedes at 56, Red Bull at 44, VCarb at 42, Cadillac at 33, then Alpine and Audi. So all of the 7 teams at the track, of course, as I say, no Ferrari today, no McLaren today, no Aston Martin until a couple of days, and of course no Williams. But every team got out of the garage, right? No teams had an absolute disaster. And, obviously Honda has done no lapping yet, but every other team in the Ferrari, all the teams, no issues, no red flags, at least as the morning session, looking all rather good. So then the live timing gets cut off, but what is interesting is that Soy Motor here, they actually do put out some updated ones from the early part of this afternoon session, and they have Russell getting down to a 1:18.9. So not exactly sure where they're getting this data from, but these are pretty much all the takeaways that we have on the day. So yes, these are some of the timings. It doesn't massively matter early on. Haas have done plenty of running. The engines look reasonably consistent. I'm not saying reliability is going to be great this season. I'm sure there are going to be plenty of issues, and the pace at this point we have frankly no idea. But early doors, it's Red Bull, it's Mercedes, and then it filters down from there. So all rather fascinating. Again, these times are so far off the pole time, and even like race running times, it's just not particularly relevant. But we do have some timing. We do have some lap count numbers, at least of the day from the morning session before the live timing feeds got cut off. I'm sure there'll be more to discuss in due course as well. Just one final thing, we've got to talk about Williams. Ferrari, we'll talk about them probably tomorrow when they hit the track in great force. But Williams aren't here with the test, as we understand. According to rumours, they've failed the crash test 3 times, which in itself isn't a disaster, if by doing so they're really pushing the boundaries. But for a team that's been full focus on 2026 for about 3 years, for them to apparently be 20 to 30 kilos overweight. I mean, we're roasting Aston Martin for being, 10, 15 kilos overweight and slightly delayed, and the other teams are near enough the weight limit according to rumours. Williams apparently have just cocked up big time. I mean, if they're 30 kilos overweight, it's just an absolute disaster, and they can't even get the car ready for the track. So, yeah, that's the update on Williams anyway. It ain't looking good as it stands, and, well, they're getting cooked as well, because today they're like, well, we've got to do a social post, so here are the boys doing a team kit shoot, and it's like, well, lads, you not got no car, right? Like, come on, let's not aura farm it on the timeline when every other team is tweeting out pictures of their car on the track in Barcelona, and this is what Williams have to do. So, yes, very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments. Lots of interesting running to come in the coming days. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.